Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The sky over Earth had never looked more menacing. High above, the stars seemed to dim under the oppressive shadow of the Virex Dominion's fleet, massive ships that hovered like sentinels of doom. John Carter, a young military commander with more courage than experience, stood on the command deck of the Earth Defense Headquarters, staring at the holographic display of the invasion's progress. His jaw clenched, knuckles white against the edge of the console. "This is it," he whispered, eyes fixed on the blinking red icons that represented Virex ships. "If we don't stop them now, Earth is lost." Dr. Olivia Reyes, standing beside him, shared the same grave expression. She was a brilliant scientist, renowned for her work in quantum physics, but even her expertise felt like a candle against the inferno of the alien empire's might. "John," she said, her voice tight with anxiety, "we need more time. Dark Star isn't ready." John shook his head. "There is no more time, Olivia. We either launch this counterattack, or we surrender." The decision weighed on him more heavily than anything he had ever faced. It wasn't just about strategy or tactics, it was about survival, his, Olivia's, Earth's. And the Virex weren't conquerors who would offer terms of surrender. No, they were colonizers, eradicators. To them, Earth was just another planet to strip of its resources before they moved on. John had seen the devastation they left in their wake on other worlds. He couldn't let that happen here. "Give me an update," John commanded, turning his attention to the row of officers managing the battle from the command center. They looked to him, some with fear in their eyes, but they responded crisply. "The Virex have established control over several key areas in the Northern Hemisphere. Their forces are advancing toward major population centers in Europe and Asia," one officer reported. "Our ground forces are being overrun. We don't have enough firepower to break their shields." John nodded. It was what he expected. The Virex shields, an advanced form of energy barrier, were nearly impervious to human weaponry. They absorbed all incoming attacks, rendering Earth's defenses useless. That's why the Dark Star project was so crucial. It wasn't just a weapon, it was Earth's only chance. "Olivia," John said, turning to her again. "Tell me we can make this work." She hesitated, adjusting her glasses nervously. "The theory is sound. Dark Star can disrupt their shields, but we've only tested it on a small scale. It's unproven in a real battle scenario." John sighed. "Unproven or not, it's the only shot we've got." The holographic display blinked with new information. The Virex mothership was moving into a new position, closer to Earth's atmosphere. They were preparing for a final assault. If that ship made it into low orbit, the devastation would be unimaginable. "We need to deploy the Dark Star now," John said, his voice cutting through the tension in the room. He pressed a button on the console, opening a direct line to the fleet. "All units, prepare for assault. We're launching the Dark Star." The command echoed through the halls of Earth's last remaining defense fleet, the ships bristling with activity as they prepared for the most important mission in human history. As John barked out final orders, Olivia was at her workstation, fine-tuning the calculations for the weapon. "John," she said softly, "you do realize that if this fails, there won't be a second chance." "I know," he replied. "But it won't fail." He had to believe that. There was no other option. The Dark Star, housed in the belly of the Eclipse, Earth's largest and most advanced warship, was a massive generator designed to destabilize the molecular structure of energy shields. It worked by sending out a quantum pulse that would overload the shields, causing them to collapse. In theory, it was perfect. In practice, they were about to find out. The launch was swift. John and Olivia were aboard the Eclipse, leading the assault directly. As the ship broke through Earth's atmosphere, John's mind wasn't on the stars or the breathtaking sight of the planet below. It was on the mission, the plan that had to succeed. "Incoming Virex ships on R6, a voice called out from the comms. "Prepare countermeasures," John ordered. "Keep them off us until we're in range." The fleet was an impressive sight, dozens of ships, large and small, moving in unison toward the Virex mothership. John knew that for every human ship, the Virex had 3 more. Their superiority in numbers was overwhelming, but with Dark Star, they had an equalizer. The Virex ships closed in, their sleek, angular designs reflecting the harsh light of distant stars. They were a dark and ominous presence, moving with terrifying precision. The first barrage of alien plasma fire hit Earth's fleet, sending shockwaves through the smaller ships. Some exploded on impact, their shields no match for the Virex firepower. "Keep moving," John shouted over the roar of explosions. "We need to get to the mothership." He knew that if they didn't break through soon, they'd be overwhelmed. But even as Earth's ships were torn apart around him, John remained focused. He couldn't afford to think about the lives being lost, not yet. "We're in position," Olivia said, her voice tense but steady. "Dark Star is ready." John looked at her. "Do it." Olivia activated the weapon, and the ship hummed with power. The quantum pulse built up in the core of the Eclipse, sending a ripple through the hull as it charged. Outside, the battle raged on, but for a moment, all eyes were on the Dark Star. Firing in 3, 2, 1, the pulse fired, invisible to the naked eye, but its effect was immediate. The Virex ships nearest to them flickered, their shields crackling with energy. And then, one by one, they collapsed. "It's working," Olivia said, her face a mixture of relief and disbelief. "The shields are down. All units, engage," John ordered. "Hit them with everything you've got." The human fleet surged forward, unleashing a barrage of missiles and energy weapons on the now vulnerable Virex ships. Explosions lit up the sky as the alien ships were torn apart. For the first time in the war, humanity had the upper hand, but the real target was the Virex mothership. "Get us in range of the mothership," John ordered, his voice hard. "We take that ship down, and this war is over." The Eclipse pushed forward, dodging through the debris of destroyed Virex vessels. The mothership loomed ahead, a massive structure that dwarfed even the largest of Earth's ships. It was the heart of the invasion force, and John knew that destroying it would cripple the Virex's ability to continue their assault. "Incoming fire," someone shouted as the mothership's cannons lit up. "Brace for impact." John called out. The Eclipse shook violently as the Virex plasma cannons slammed into it. The shields held, but barely. Another hit like that, and they wouldn't be so lucky. "We need to get closer," Olivia said, her fingers flying across the console. "The Dark Star needs to be in direct contact with the mothership to destabilize its core." John nodded. "Take us in." The Eclipse surged forward, dodging plasma fire as it closed the distance. The mothership's defenses were formidable, but they were faltering without the protection of their shields. "We're in position," Olivia said. "Fire the Dark Star." The weapon activated again, this time directed at the mothership itself. The effect was immediate. The massive ship trembled, its core destabilizing as the quantum pulse tore through its systems. "We did it," Olivia breathed, but John wasn't celebrating yet. "Get us out of here," he ordered. "That thing's going to blow." The Eclipse turned and sped away from the mothership as it began to break apart. Explosions rippled through its hull, and moments later, the entire ship erupted in a massive fireball, the shockwave rocking the human fleet. Cheers erupted on the comms as the Virex forces began to retreat, their invasion force shattered, but John wasn't smiling. He couldn't. Not with the faces of the dead flashing through his mind, the cost of victory weighing heavily on his shoulders. Earth was saved, but at what price? "We're not done yet," he whispered, staring out at the wreckage of the mothership. "This war is just beginning." Back on Earth, the celebrations were already beginning. News of the victory spread like wildfire, and John was hailed as a hero. But as he stood on the balcony overlooking the devastated city below, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. His brother, David, had been captured during the early days of the invasion. And though the Virex had been defeated, there was no word of what had happened to him. John clenched his fists, the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. He had saved Earth, but he couldn't save his own family. The door behind him opened, and Olivia stepped out. "John," she said softly. "You should be celebrating. You saved the world." He shook his head. "We're not done, Olivia. The Virex will regroup. And there are others out there, watching, waiting." She sighed, stepping beside him. "We'll be ready. Thanks to you, we have a fighting chance." John gazed up at the stars, his mind racing with the weight of the galaxy's ever-present threats. The victory against the Virex mothership had given Earth a reprieve, but it hadn't given him peace. His brother David's fate gnawed at him, and the hollow emptiness in his chest reminded him that the battle wasn't truly over, not for him, at least. The celebratory sounds from the streets below felt distant, muted by the burden of unanswered questions and looming dangers. Olivia stood next to him, her presence steady but filled with concern. She knew John too well by now. Victory, in his eyes, wasn't just about defeating the enemy, it was about protecting the people he loved, the people who trusted him to lead. And while he had saved billions, he hadn't saved David. The silence between them stretched, thick with unspoken thoughts. "They took him to one of their deep space prisons," John said, his voice hoarse, breaking the stillness. "I need to get him back." Olivia glanced at him, her brow furrowing. "You're talking about a Virex prison, John. We barely managed to take down their mothership. Going into their territory, I know it's insane," he interrupted, turning to face her. "But I can't just leave him there. He's my brother, Olivia." She sighed, understanding the weight behind his words. She had seen that same determination in him before, when the Dark Star Project was little more than a desperate idea. Back then, it seemed like an impossible mission, but John had made it work. She knew this wasn't just about David, it was about making sure humanity wasn't left in the shadow of fear. "I'll help you," she finally said, her voice soft yet resolute. "But this time, we do it smart. No reckless charges. We plan, we prepare, and we get in and out without alerting the whole galaxy." John gave a slight nod, the tension easing just a fraction. He knew Olivia was right. Charging into Virex territory unprepared would be suicide, and he had no intention of sacrificing anyone else, especially not her. Over the next few days, John's focus shifted entirely to intelligence gathering. He ordered scouts to investigate the nearest Virex outposts and prisons, searching for any trace of David or a way into the heart of enemy space. Olivia worked tirelessly beside him, modifying the dark star technology for stealth applications. Instead of using it for large-scale attacks, they adapted it to create pockets of shield disruption, a way to infiltrate without triggering alarms. Their efforts were slow and painstaking. The Virex controlled vast regions of space, and information was scarce. But John's resolve never wavered. Every lead, no matter how small, pushed him closer to the goal. Time blurred in the confines of the command center as days stretched into weeks. Then, finally, a breakthrough point. One of their deep space scouts intercepted a Virex transmission that mentioned a human prisoner transfer. The details were vague, but the coordinates led to a remote asteroid outpost at the edge of Virex-controlled space, a perfect location for a hidden prison. John's heart pounded as he read the report. This was the lead they had been waiting for. "It's a long shot," Olivia said, reviewing the data. "We don't know for sure if David's there, but it's our best lead." John nodded, his eyes focused on the map of the asteroid outpost. "We'll take it. We don't get many second chances with the Virex." They spent the next few days refining the plan. Olivia's modifications to the dark star technology were crucial. They would allow the eclipse to slip past the Virex sensors undetected. The mission was straightforward: infiltrate the outpost, locate David, and extract him before the Virex even realized they were there. But John knew better than to expect everything to go smoothly. When the day of the mission arrived, John stood in the hangar, watching the crew prepare the eclipse. It was the same ship that had delivered Earth's victory against the Virex mothership, and now it was about to embark on a far more personal mission. As he donned his tactical gear, Olivia approached, her expression a mixture of determination and concern. "We've gone over the plan 100 times," she said, handing him his helmet. "Just promise me you'll stick to it. No improvising." John managed a faint smile. "I'll try my best." The crew boarded the Eclipse, and soon they were cutting through the black void of space, heading toward the asteroid outpost. The journey was tense, the silence of space only amplifying the anticipation. Every sensor reading, every blip on the radar felt like it could be the difference between success and failure. As they approached the outpost, Olivia activated the modified dark star. The ship's systems hummed softly as the quantum pulse cloaked their approach, rendering them invisible to the Virex's detection grids. John watched the asteroid grow larger on the view screen, its surface pocked with craters and industrial facilities. It was an inhospitable place, perfect for a secret prison. Entering the outpost's perimeter, Olivia announced, her voice calm but focused. "So far, no signs of detection." "Good," John replied, his eyes scanning the tactical display. "Let's keep it that way." The Eclipse touched down on a desolate part of the asteroid, far from the main Virex installations. John and a small strike team disembarked, moving quickly and silently across the rocky terrain. The outpost loomed ahead, a fortress-like structure carved into the asteroid itself. Its exterior was cold, lifeless, but John knew that inside, it housed prisoners, and possibly, his brother. They made their way to a service entrance, bypassing the outer defenses using Olivia's expertly designed tech. The team slipped inside the outpost, moving through dimly lit corridors that seemed to hum with the energy of unseen machinery. The place felt like a tomb, with guards posted at regular intervals, but they moved past them undetected, thanks to Olivia's modified cloaking systems. As they neared the detention area, John's pulse quickened. This was it. They reached the central control room, where Olivia hacked into the system, scanning for prisoner logs. Her fingers flew over the console as John stood guard, his heart pounding in his chest. "There," Olivia whispered, pulling up the data. There's a human prisoner in cell block D. It has to be him. John didn't wait for further confirmation. He motioned for the team to move, heading down the corridor toward cell block D. The tension in the air was palpable as they approached the cell. John felt his breath catch as the door slid open. Inside, slumped against the wall, was his brother David. Bruised, gaunt, but alive, David, John breathed, rushing into the cell and kneeling beside him. David's eyes fluttered open, weak but filled with recognition. "John, you came." John gripped his brother's hand tightly. "I told you I would." But there was no time for reunions. The Virex were bound to notice the breach any second. John motioned for the team to prepare for extraction as they helped David to his feet. "Let's move. We've got to get out before they realize what's happened." As they made their way back to the Eclipse, the alarm finally blared. The Virex were onto them. "Time's up," Olivia said, her voice tense through the comms. "Get to the ship now." The team moved with urgency, blasters at the ready as Virex soldiers flooded the corridors. John led the way, firing at anything that moved, his singular focus on getting David to safety. The adrenaline coursed through his veins, drowning out everything but the mission. They reached the airlock, the Eclipse waiting just beyond. "Go, go, go!" John shouted, covering the team's retreat. Once everyone was aboard, the ship's engines roared to life, lifting off the asteroid's surface just as a squadron of Virex fighters descended. Olivia activated the Dark Star again, masking their escape as the Eclipse shot through space, dodging plasma fire and debris. The tension didn't break until they were safely beyond the Virex perimeter, the asteroid outpost shrinking in the distance. John collapsed into a seat, exhaustion hitting him like a wave. But as he glanced at his brother, lying on a med bed, alive and breathing, a weight lifted from his chest. "We did it," Olivia said softly, sitting beside him. John nodded, though the victory felt more personal than triumphant. Earth was safe, and now, so was his brother. But he knew this wouldn't be the last time they would face the Virex, or any of the other threats lurking in the galaxy. For now, though, they had won. John stared out at the stars, his mind already preparing for the next battle, the next challenge. The universe was vast, and Earth was just one small part of it. But as long as there were people like him and Olivia, people willing to fight for what mattered, humanity would endure. No matter the odds.